Welcome everyone to the webinar for multi-factor authentication for PBXact and FreePBX. My name is Lauren Gates. I'm the Director of Open Source, as well as a few other functions in the company. I have been working with FreePBX and Asterisk and PBXact for many, many years, and I am very excited to be able to present this group of features around multi-factor authentication here today. Let's get started, shall we? Our agenda for today is to do a quick overview. Presumably most people attending will know what MFA is, but if you don't, we'll find out. We'll see what the PBX requirements are for running the new MFA module. We'll see how to purchase licenses for FreePBX, how to install the module, and I will go through the experience that an administrator sees when configuring and setting up MFA, as well as what the user sees from their perspective when they log into a system with MFA enabled. So multi-factor authentication is a requirement for at least one additional authentication factor beyond a simple username and password. The goal is simple. It's to protect against a situation where a user's credentials have been leaked or have been successfully brute forced, such that they are required to add an additional piece of information that is unique to the user and to the session and allows the user to log in while also keeping out malicious users. The MFA module in its current incarnation is able to challenge the users based on an email or an audio call to the user's local extension, or they can use a mobile authentication app on their phone to get the token needed to unlock the login session. MFA on FreePBX is a paid commercial module, but it comes bundled at no additional cost for all PBXact and PBXact cloud systems. Presently, MFA features are only for GUI login, so phone client actions like soft phone registration or hot desking, etc., are not currently supported with this module. When it comes to MFA licensing, it is supported on PBX versions 15 and 16. Unlimited MFA licensing is included with all PBXact systems. For FreePBX, pricing is per administrator account that requires an MFA login. There's a separate license requirement for each additional administrator that requires MFA. A single MFA license entitles all users to log into UCP using MFA. So a small system with one administrator and multiple users has need of only a single MFA license. FreePBX license purchasing is the same as for all other commercial module licensing. You can browse to portal.sangoma.com/store, enter your login credentials, and then browse the store or quickly search for MFA, and you will find the SKU for the FreePBX module. You can click add to add it in your cart and then proceed with the checkout process. And as for all commercial module purchases, you will be required to input the PBX deployment ID to permanently associate the module purchase with the PBX system. As this is a brand new module, most existing systems will not have it installed. It would be installed by default on a new system. If you browse to admin PBX MFA or you don't see that item appear in the admin menu, then that indicates that the module is not installed. You can browse to admin updates and click the module updates tab, and wait for the screen to refresh, and then click on Check Online. Eventually, you will see a list of all modules that are installed or can be installed on the system. And from that list, you can expand the PBX MFA option and click the Download Install button. From there, you can process the module installation. It goes very quickly, a few seconds, after which you click Apply Config. It's the same procedure to install any module on PBX or PBXact or FreePBX system. So we now have the module licensed, we have the module installed. It's a matter of browsing to admin PBX MFA, and you will see a few buttons there. You can click the Enable button, and there's a few simple options there as far as how you want your users to be challenged for an MFA token. For the types of MFA challenges, we have email, a voice call, or an authenticator app, and you can use all three. You can also enable MFA for users, UCP logins, or administrators, admin GUI logins, or both. So these are global system settings, and we can control per user options a little later. For many things with the MFA challenges, emails are sent to the users as part of the MFA setup or the MFA token. These templates are configurable. So if you click on the email settings tab of the MFA module, you will see the various templates there for email settings. You can control whether emails are delivered in HTML or text format. You can edit the subject or the body of the emails, making them unique to your specific system or organization, which would facilitate with identifying emails from illegitimate phishing attacks. You also will note that there are variable placeholders for the various user parameters that are unique for each email, such as greeting name and tokens. For individual user configuration, that is done under user management. So if you browse to admin user management, after the module is installed, you will now see a new PBX MFA tab there that is present for both users and groups. From here, you can manage which MFA features are enabled individually for the user, or you can edit for the group and choose which features are enabled for all members of the group. And as with all things in user management, if you want to inherit the default features as defined for the group, then you keep the user settings set to inherit and manage the settings at the group level. There are some advanced administrator features that come with this module. One of them allows you as an administrator to unlock a UCP session using an FW console command without knowing the user's password. So this can be useful for many reasons, but the format for this is for FW console unlock UCP. There, you pass the username flag that you want to log in, as well as the session ID key that's presented in the login screen. This allows you to bypass both the username and the password, as well as the MFA token. It is also a case that when you enable MFA for a user, a series of backup OTP or one-time PIN codes are generated for the user that they can use in the case where they are unable to receive a conventional MFA challenge over email or for their authentication app, however it's been set up. The point is that there are backup codes that can be used exactly once to allow a user to continue to log in even if they are unable to receive the MFA notification. These backup codes are possible to delete and renew and regenerate from the admin by browsing to the admin PBX MFA menu. So let's talk about what the user sees when they log into FreePBX for the first time after an administrator has enabled MFA for them. If you're using email challenges for MFA pins, the first time they log in, they will enter their username and password as they always do. After they successfully enter their password, an additional OTP verification window pops up with a field for 6 digits. That user will receive an email sent to the email address on record for the user in user management, including a PIN. The PIN code is good for 30 minutes, and if they successfully copy and paste that or manually key in the digits received in the email, then the login proceeds as normal. They continue to use UCP or the admin GUI exactly as they have always done. Here you can see an example that shows for the OTP verification window, and there's also a little toggle to allow the browser to be trusted for 30 days, after which, when they log in again, they will have to go through the MFA challenge. And on the bottom right is a sample of what the email looks like in its default format, but as noted earlier, that's configurable. If the user opts to get a voice challenge for the MFA authentication token, after they successfully enter their password, you will see a little call verification window will pop up and the local extension number will ring. This is the extension number associated with the user in user management. They cannot control which phone rings. Once they answer the phone, they will be given a short greeting, after which they will be challenged to press pound to continue with the login. Once they do that, the call verification window from the login attempt disappears and the session continues exactly as it has always done. And once again, there's a little toggle to trust the browser session for 30 days. We also support authenticator apps, mobile authenticator app for MFA challenges. So the very first time that a user logs into either the admin GUI or UCP, they will get a little validation window that looks a little different and receive a long email with instructions on how to set up and configure the Authenticator app. We support both Google Authenticator and Microsoft Authenticator, but other Authenticator apps are known to work. I myself use LastPass, and I have heard cases of other apps being used. The email includes both a QR code, which is trivially easy to scan on your mobile device, or there is also a long alphanumeric token which you can use to paste into the Auth app to set up the account. Once you set up the app for the PBX login, it will then generate continuously a 6-digit token, and at any time in the future when the user attempts to log in, they will be asked to enter whatever the current 6-digit token is that shows for the Auth app. It's important to note, if you're using this feature, that you will need a separate entry for both UCP login and admin GUI login for your users. So for any users that are using MFA login for both UCP and the admin GUI, you will use a separate Authenticator app token for each one. And really, that is the wrap up for how this thing works technically. It's pretty straightforward for the features as described. Everything is described in a little more depth in the FreePBX wiki. You can browse to wiki.sangoma.com and search for MFA. It will be the first result that comes up, or you can use this long URL as shown here. We can pause here for questions. Let me get my little questions window open so I can see what's come in. All right, so we got a comment from Eric. Thank you very much for your words. I'm looking at a question. Excited about MFA again. Thank you, David. We have a question from Christopher. Do we have an available 25-year license as well? You say no. Currently, we are offering free PBX licenses of 1 year only. At some point, we will have an improvement in the portal store that will allow you to buy both multiple copies of the module for additional administrator as well as multiple years. So you can purchase several years in advance, but that feature is not available yet. So at present, it will be a matter of renewing annually. We have a question from Charles. Is the default setting for user configuration set to inherit? And I can confirm that is the default setting. If you can set things up in the group for the first time setup, and your users that are a member of that group will inherit whatever settings you've enabled in the group. Question from George. For FW console, is the session ID refreshed at each time the UCP is launched? Yes, that session ID string changes every time you refresh. Actually, I'll say this another way. I believe the session ID changes every time you refresh the login page. That's the way it works for the admin GUI login. I have not used the UCP login FW console bypass very much at all. So I would expect that token to change continuously whenever the page is refreshed. Question from Amanda. Are there plans to add MFA for Sangoma Talk and desktop? We have nebulous plans for that at present, but nothing concrete or roadmapped as yet. So it will be something to watch for as potential in the future, but it is not something that we're currently have in active planning or development. Question for Steve. Who is the underlying auth provider? That might be a bit technical to get into in this one, Steve. So if you'll see my email there, why don't you send me an email with that on with as much detail as you can, and I'll confer with engineering on that and get back to you with a proper answer. Question from David. Can you enable for a bulk enable for a group of extensions? So you don't enable that extension, you enable that users, but I know what you're asking. I have not tried to do a bulk export and bulk re-import with MFA features changing on the import. I suspect you can, and I suspect it's been tested, but I am not able to answer that question right now. It's something I'll test here after a little webinar and make sure that that works as expected. But my expectation would be that you could bulk export all of your individual users, make the MFA changes in the CSV, and then re-import them and expect those changes to persist after the import. However, if you are making changes like that in user management at a user level instead of a groups level, then it's probable that you have things set up in a way that's suboptimal. it is expected that most users will be gathered together in a group or in groups, and that all changes for all of the users are managed at the group level and set to inherit at the user level. I should also have noted that an email address is required for each user for MFA to be enabled. So you can enable MFA at the group level, but any users who are a member of that group that do not have an email address specified will not have MFA enabled. Eric is asking, will the MFA module be free for commercial PBXact servers? Or so as stated, all PBXact systems, PBXact Prem systems, or systems that are hosted in your own environment, as well as PBXact cloud systems, include unlimited MFA at no additional cost. The only thing that comes into question right now is I am not sure what the status is for any PBXact software as a service systems that were set up. So if anyone is using PBXact in an SaaS arrangement, you can see my email there in front of you. Please contact me if there's any issues with that. David is asking, do you plan on having a global MFA option? Some accounts have many users, multiple users for paging groups, then a group for report, etc. This could make the 18 module hike up to, okay. So clarification then on how the module licensing works. First of all, there's no fees for PBXact, so we're talking only about FreePBX. If you have a small system with one administrator login and say 10 users with 10 UCP logins, in that case, you need a single MFA license for the administrator, and all of the UCP users are capable of logging into UCP under that single license. If you then for the small system, if you go out and hire a second employee that also needs administrator access in addition to the first administrator, then you would need a second MFA license so that both administrators can log in using unique credentials and both have MFA challenges enabled for the account. All of your users would continue to log in as they always had been, regardless of how many MFA licenses you've purchased for FreePBX. So licensing for FreePBX scales with administrator logins, not user UCP logins. I hope that's clear. If it's not, please drop me an email, David, and I'll do a better job on that. Tim is asking about port configuration for firewall. So the existing firewall configuration for normal UCP and FreePBX admin GUI login will work for MFA as well. There is no additional server, daemon, or anything going on behind the scenes beyond simple Apache services for the pages being served. David is complimenting the FW console command. Thank you. Can you be locked out of the system using MFA? It's a question from Chris. So technically you can be, but as I noted in the advanced feature section, there are options to generate one-time codes for the user. So if the user is attempting to log in and they are unable to receive their MFA notification either by email because, I don't know, lack of access to email or something is interrupting email delivery from the PBX, or if they're unable to receive a voice call in the local extension, they don't have it registered, or if they have lost the configuration on their mobile authenticator app, whatever reason, there's multiple reasons why you might not be able to receive an OTP notification, then you can use one of the backup codes generated at the time of the account is enabled. And as I said, the administrator is free to purge those and regenerate them at any time. So there is a backup option as a user to get by the MFA challenge if they're unable to receive a token. As an administrator, presumably you have SSH access and root login. If that's the case, then you can use the FW console bypass as well without burning a backup code that's generated at the time the module is installed. Taylor is asking why the module is a paid option. It's a fair question. It's a paid option for the reason that it is considered an advanced option. It doesn't impact basic PBX usage and utility. It's priced fairly economically, in my opinion. Obviously, that other opinions will differ, and it is a decision that we as a company have decided on for this module. Thank you for your comments. We have a compliment from Charles. Thank you, Charles. Question from Tyler. Is MFA only for the web GUI or does it work on SSH? As stated early on, this is only for Apache services, web GUI and UCP only. It does not apply to other Apache services such as API or REST apps. It does not apply to soft clients, and it does not apply to SSH. Eric is asking about possible tie-in with Sangoma Connect. We're sort of nebulously thinking about soft client MFAs at the moment, but there is nothing in current development or on the roadmap at present. There's a question from Chad that's already been covered. Thank you, Chad. Amanda is referring to something about a feature request. Feature requests are easy to accommodate. I don't have the link for me right at present, but please feel free to send me an email and I'll find that for you. You could describe your feature in the email as well. It probably references an earlier question that I may have missed. Steve has a question about pricing, which is already covered. Thank you, Steve. Compliment from Mark about working well with Google Auth. Thank you, Mark. Carlos is asking if the session will be shared. Elvita, I think we'll share the video for this in social media. Is that correct?
Yeah, the recording will be shared.
Okay, anyone who wants a personal link to it can request that with an email to me. You're looking at the email address. Thank you, Carlos. Steve has a comment on pricing for multiple administrators. We've covered pricing already for administrators. I'll just point out that at some point, if you're using FreePBX with many administrators, it may become cost beneficial to investigate PBXact. You get additional features as well, but it comes bundled with unlimited MFA capabilities. Chris has a good point. So with regard to MFA, if anything becomes unglued in the process such that if you your users are locked out due to some failure of MFA notification delivery or some other reason, then it is a non-trivial, it is more or less trivial matter to disable the MFA module entirely to temporarily bypass it for everyone. So if you have access to the GUI as an administrator, you can disable the module in updates, module admin, more or less in the same method that's used to install it that I went over earlier. Or if you only have SSH access for some reason, then you can disable the module using the FW console command to disable any module. And I'll just state it here now. It would take the form of FW console, all one word, space MA, space disable, space PBX MFA. and that is the method you use to disable any PBX module. So that would be sort of a technical way to quickly and immediately bypass MFA for all logins in the case of a sort of a system-wide outage that prevents access. Chris is sharing a comment about an issue they had with MS Authenticator. The user was user got a new phone, was not able to use MS Auth, and so is there a reset for the linked identification app? So as far as a reset goes, that is a good question. I have not encountered that yet. Obviously, they can burn their one-time emergency login codes as pins, and they could trust their browser for 30 days from that point on. It is probably a matter of, I'm going to have to follow up with you on that one, Charles, because that's a good point. If the user has already set it up in the Auth app, what mechanism do they use to set it up in another Auth app if they need to? If you don't mind, send me an email on that, and I'll make a point to follow up properly. Compliment from Mike. Thank you, Mike. Another thanks from Carlos, and that is the end of the questions. There is a lot of them, and there is a non-zero chance that I missed one. If there is anyone who didn't get their question, oh, here's one from Ryan. Is the module available as of today? Nothing is showing up in our PBXact cloud climate. That's a good question, Ryan. It's possible that see the PBXact cloud updates roll out sort of on a defined schedule, sort of monthly, or unless there's some reason to come out a little sooner. I would have expected cloud to be updated by now, but if it's not, I can chase that down for you. Feel free to send me an email, but I'll follow up on that regardless. If you're not seeing it today, you'll see it very shortly. If I missed a question from anyone, they can paste it again in the questions. It'll come up in the bottom. Otherwise, I think we're ready to say we're over. Eric is asking module name and CLI. MFA is not showing. The raw name for the module is PBX MFA. That's all one word. Confirmed, you got it. Thanks, Eric. I'll make a plug here for this evening. We have the open source lounge this evening. So anyone who's not joined in the past or has, make yourself aware that we have monthly lounge, more or less social get-togethers with Sangoma employees and FreePBX engineers. It is at 7 p.m. Eastern time, and social media has the links for it. I don't have that link right at the moment. If you have any trouble finding it, my email is right in front of you, shared. Please send me a note and I'll share that with you. Everyone's always invited for those sessions. We can talk more about MFA if your question got missed, or if additional things come up again for today. All right, we're coming up on 40 minutes after the hour. That's the end of the questions. Thank you to everyone for joining. Happy New Year, which I probably should have started out by saying, for those that observe the Caesar calendar. It was fun. Watch for future webinars and open source lounges in the future. Signing off. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Alvita.